Bring yourself into Child Pose, Garbhasana or Balasana, at about the middle of your mat. So as you come down onto your shins, take your knees to the width that allows you to release your head, push the ground away with your hands, drop your hips back over your heels, take a breath or two consciously, deeply into your low back, letting your hips and your low back open. And then either keep your hands in front or rest them under your head or wrap them back around by your feet. Find the place where you can feel more relaxed, where you can settle onto the mat, into your breath. Begin to deepen your breathing, shifting into Ujjayi pranayama, narrowing your throat as you breathe in and out through your nose, so you're hearing the sound of the breath in the throat. Noticing the expansion of your belly in towards your thighs, your low back towards the sky, your rib cage all the way around, perhaps feeling a stretch all the way up into your neck and your shoulders, collarbones, under your shoulder blades. This next time that you inhale, uncurl your way upright to kneeling. If your knees are wide, bring them back in line with your hips. Take your arms out to the sides, lift them up overhead. And as you exhale, bring your palms together down along your midline, resting your hands at your heart in Atmanjali Mudra, symbol of higher self. Using that connection to lift your sternum up. Release your shoulders down. Feel where you're not leaning forward over your thighs and your tailbone's not tucked under towards your heels. You find the natural curves and length of the spine. Tuning into the meaning of the mantra, Om Namo Gurudev Namo, so connecting into a sense of infinite creative consciousness and divine wisdom within. If you're joining in with your voice, breathe in for the first of 3. As you inhale, release your hands forward, come onto your hands and knees, keeping your knees together, inner legs together, and bring your hands right underneath broad shoulders. We're going to come back into cat presses. Tuck your elbows in and point the points of your elbows back towards your thighs. Slide your shoulder blades onto your back. Lift your low belly in and up so it feels like your back is like a tabletop. I think of doing these as though I have tea set on my back, and I'm only going to the point where that tea set doesn't rattle or fall off. So find where your back feels really broad, lifting your low belly in and up, elbows tucked in. Find your breathing, and the next time that you exhale, come forward ahead of your hands by bending your elbows, and use your inhale then to come back up. Engaging your feet if you haven't already, so it feels like you have Barbie doll feet. Checking your knees feel supported. Moving slowly with your breath, using your exhale to come closer to the ground, only to the point where you don't fall apart and you can come back up. And using your inhale to lift back up, using the levitation of the inhale to come back up to center. This next time that you come down to your lowest point, hold that lowest point, but don't hold your breath. Keep your breath flowing. Tuck your elbows in, broaden your shoulders back away from your neck and your ears. Lift your low belly in and up so you're aiming your tailbone back. Keep your feet engaged if they're lifted up off the ground. See if possibly you can go a little bit lower and yet stay lifted and integrated. Use your next inhale to come back up. And as you exhale, release back into a brief child pose. So find where your head can release on the ground for this. If you need to take your knees wider, do that. Push the ground away with your hands. Drop your hips back. Slide your shoulders back. So you might have to walk your hands back a little closer to you. So you clear your shoulders from your neck. Slow your breathing. And take your arms out to the sides now so that you're making a T shape. Your hands are level with your shoulders. With your head down, your hips on your heels, roll your thumbs up towards the ceiling so you're rolling your shoulders down into your neck like you're wringing out your arms. Keeping your arms out about shoulder level, then rotate from your hands so that your little fingers turn up towards the sky and you feel your shoulder blades clear back away from your neck. Your shoulder blades slide down towards your hips. And continue with this rolling action, starting from your hands, moving it into your elbows and then into your shoulders and into your spine, getting a sense of wringing out your arms the way you would wring out a towel and using your breath to find that. So exhale as you roll your thumbs up towards the ceiling, your shoulders down towards your neck, and inhale as you roll your little fingers up towards the ceiling and slide your shoulder blades back. And we're going to make a transition from here upright. If you tend to get lightheaded, then bring your hands under your shoulders, uncurl slowly, breathing your way up, being sure to inhale as you come up. If you're feeling a little bit more balanced, then use your inhale to come up, keeping your arms long, your hands out to the sides. And coming up onto your knees with your hips over your knees, so you're on your shins. And as you come up, roll your little fingers up towards the sky. So you roll your shoulder blades down onto your back. Again, if you tend to get lightheaded, it might be best for you just to stay upright and work with your arms as you were doing in child pose, but upright. If you feel confident to move, then as you exhale, roll back down and just go to the point where you feel balanced and can come back up. So again, if you need to stay upright, just roll your arms. That's perfect. Starting the action from your hands, roll through your hands, thumbs rolling up towards the sky as you roll down. And as you come up, little fingers rolling up towards the sky. Finding that action moving from the hands, through the wrists, in through the elbows, into the shoulders, and into the spine with the breath. Inhale to come up. Exhale to roll down. If you're feeling top heavy when you roll down, press your shins down to give more foundation. If it feels like you're going to do a forward roll, don't go all the way down. I call this blossom roll. If you think of a flower that opens and blooms in the morning and closes down at the end of the day. This next time that you lift up on your inhale, keep your arms out to the sides, keeping your knees under your front hips. And then drop your shins down, draw your belly in and up, and feel your tailbone point down towards the back of your knees. So using your core strength to lengthen your low back. And then bring your hands onto your bum, your butt cheeks, as opposed to your sacrum. So the heels of your hands right on the flesh of your bum. And then draw your belly in and up, and as you exhale next, press your hips forward a little bit, as though your hands are pressing your hips forward. So as you inhale, lift your sternum up, lift your rib cage up, and feel with your hands on your butt, does that tilt your tailbone up into your hands? So if it does, exhale, draw your belly in and aim your tailbone down. So looking for, here in this practice, how we can extend the tailbone down on the back body and the sternum up on the front body at the same time. So we can find the distance between those two and still breathe. So noticing, as we start to slowly move into back bending, how the breath changes, and if there's any fear for you in moving back into space. Draw your elbows in towards each other behind you, like brackets. If it feels like your shoulders are creeping up, your hands may have to come a little lower on the flesh of your bum, or even the back of your thighs. So feel for where's the place where you can slide your shoulders down, draw your chest up in front, and give it a couple more breaths to inhale the chest up, the sternum up. Exhale, release the tailbone down, press the shins down. Keep your head lifted, otherwise your chin's going to want to do all the work. So if you look straight ahead and draw your chest up towards your chin, with your peripheral vision, you can see that lift. To come out of this, lift one hand up off your back, inhale, draw up through your core, and as you bring that arm up, windmill the other arm up and release your hips back over your heels and your hands back behind you. Take a breath or so here, focusing your breath into your low back, resting in the forward bend of child after that first step into camel, our back bend. So now we're going to come into the quadriceps stretch. Bring your body upright, lean back into your hands behind you, look down and see that your knees line up with your front hips. So the middle of your thighs are parallel to each other. Keep your breath flowing. We're going to apply that same awareness of the core to the tilt of the pelvis and see how that affects the thighs. Lift your bum up away from your heels and think of wedging your butt cheeks between your calves and your hamstrings, the upper back of your thighs. So you're tilting your tailbone forward, just like we did in camel in that last posture. Look down at your pelvis, and as you exhale, draw your belly in and up. So you're drawing your pubic bones up towards you. And that in itself is likely to give you enough of a stretch in the front of your thighs, your quadriceps. So if that's a good place, just breathe there. If you're fairly open and flexible in the front of your thighs, keep the openness of your pelvis. So you're taking the angle out, stretching your tailbone forward, drawing your pubic bones up. So you have one open plane from your knees to your ribs, or you're moving towards that if you're not already there. But if you're flexible and you already have that and you want to take this a little deeper, then keep the open plane and start to bring your hips a little closer to your heels by bending your elbows. If you want, you can let your head release back if that feels comfortable for your neck. You may want to squeeze your shoulders in. If you do let your head drop back, keep your mind's eye, focused on your breath and your pelvis. Each exhale, draw the belly in and up and stretch the tailbone towards the back of the knees. Each inhale, think of the breath going into the belly of the thigh muscle. If you have any issues with your knees, it might be better to do this one with your toes curled under and your knees off the ground. Or you may need to edge back, so you're feeling the stretch, not in the knee joints, but in the belly of the quadricep muscles. The only change here is to take your knees as wide as the mat. And as you do that, there's a little bit more room for your pelvis, for your hips. So you can probably tuck your tailbone forward a little bit more, draw your belly up a little bit more, and see if you can feel the change in the thighs, the change of the stretch. Use your next inhale to push the ground away with your hands and bring yourself up, keeping your knees as wide as the mat. Shift your hands forward between your knees. And then walk your feet out as wide as your knees, so your feet and your knees are at the edges of the mat. Curl your toes under and shift your weight back onto your feet. So we're moving into squat. And hopefully you've been practicing this, feeling a little bit more comfortable with this posture. And it might be that you're flexible enough to take a narrower stance, but a good place to start, if you're not sure, is with your toes just at the very edges of the mat. Lift your heels up enough that you can then lift your sternum up, lengthen your spine, and then use your lower arms below your elbows to press your knees out. So keep your elbows long, and as you inhale, press out with your arms, draw your chest up, sternum up, roll your shoulders onto your back. Find the stretch on your inner thighs. Where is that for you? And we're looking to align the knees with the middle toes. So if you feel too much weight on your big toes, use the press of your arms to distribute the weight across the ball of the foot, more towards the little toe as well. And then if you want to play with taking your heels down and your tailbone down, find the tug zone. Where's the place where when you drop down through the back body, heels and tailbone, that tugs on the opening of the knees, the hips, and also the broadness of the upper mantle, the shoulders on the back. So play at that edge. To test what's holding what, feel your upper hips and thighs holding your knees open out over your feet as you bring your arms parallel to each other, up about heart level, and feel your core holding you up instead of your shoulders. As you exhale, release into table for cat and cow. Just a brief cat and cow to press your shins out. You may be feeling the front of your feet and shins from holding your squat for so long. So press the front of your feet down, aligning your knees under your front hips, your wrists under your broad shoulders. Arch your back up into cat pose, push the ground away, tuck your belly up, let your head release. See that you can't see your feet. Roll from your tailbone up to your skull as you inhale, sliding your shoulder blades back. Exhale, press the ground away, arching up. And this next time that you exhale and you press up into cat pose, push the ground away and come right up onto your shins, checking that your knees have about a fist width of distance between them, so your thighs are parallel as you come up. Bring your hands onto your bum. We're going to move into Camel, Ustrasana again. The body prefers to warm into back bends, so taking a couple of movements into back bends helps develop inner trust and to find your depth. With your hands on the flesh of your bum, press your shins down, draw your low belly up. So hopefully the quadriceps are a little bit more open, you have a little bit more awareness of the core, how to level the pelvis. Then as you exhale, draw your elbows in, take your hips forward a bit more, away from your hands, and draw your heart up as you inhale, keeping your head level for the beginning part of this, as you feel that relationship between the tailbone dropping down and the sternum lifting up. And once you know you have that, if you want, you can let your head drop back. And you may want to draw your shoulders in to support your neck if that feels safer. If you release your head back, keep an internal eye on your sternum. Does it collapse? Continue to lift your chest up as you inhale, draw your tailbone down as you exhale, elbows in, jaw relaxed. Feeling, what does it feel like to move back into space? Camels, metaphorically, are about patience, having the longevity, the endurance to make their way through the desert. So when you take this approach to camel posture, you trust the longer journey. You don't need to find the full posture as you think it should look today. Find what it feels like that you can breathe into and feel safe and confident. Use your next inhale to lift one hand up off your butt, and use your core strength as you draw your arm up to lift you up. Bring the other arm up so you're windmilling your arms, and press back into extended child. Release your low back here by pushing the ground away with your hands. Press your hips back and breathe into your belly and your low back. Let your head release down. You may need to widen your knees to release your head to the ground. One of the keys for working with back bends is that when you release out of them, there's some awareness in the low back, but if after a few breaths that still feels strong and like it's more than an awareness, like it's something that you've overdone, then that's probably the case. You may have gone into the back bend without the core support, or with your head instead of your breath or your heart. You want to find space for the heart space to open. Bringing yourself up and out of extended child by lifting up into table, and then step your right foot forward for low lunge. Give yourself enough distance left to right, between your right foot and your left knee, that you're not on a tightrope, and also front to back so that you can start to release your hips down and forward and take a deeper stretch through the quadriceps and the groin than what we did earlier. Bring your hands back on either side of your right heel so your shoulders can slide back. Lift your right toes or press into the outer edge of your right foot to help protect and align your knee. If you can uncurl your toes in your back foot, if that works for your knee, then feel your little toenail on the ground. So you know that your toes are in line with your heel, your knee with your hip, and your hips can then square forward. If your back knee isn't happy, cushion it or curl your toes under. Then, breath by breath, release into this. Let your hips drop down and forward. As you become more comfortable with the stretch on the left groin and thigh, there will be less weight in your hands. But instead of coming upright and shifting your torso back, continue to release down and forward, but just lighten the weight in the hands or bring them off the ground. And that'll help us move into the next part, which is to add the wings and the twist in the upper body. Bring your right hand down so that your upper right arm aligns and becomes an unbroken alliance with your lower right leg. You can have your palm down, be on your fingertips or a block, whatever works. Press your right knee into your arm and press back with your arm so there's one strong unit between the arm and leg, and then bring your left hand flat on your left rib cage so your palm is on your ribs. And breathe into your ribs, expand your ribs out. And the next time that you feel that expansion, open your ribs up towards the sky. And as you exhale, release down at your hips. So you're creating a little twist at your waist. Notice when you open your left rib cage up towards the sky, how your right knee may want to follow your ribs. So keep pressing your right knee into your arm into your knee, so your knee stays strongly aligned over your ankle. And then if you want, you can take your left arm up into the air. You can keep it on your ribs. But if you take it up, find length and ease in your elbow and your wrist, so the opening is from your rib cage, and your arm is extending from that instead of your hand trying to pull you back. And it might be more balanced for you to look at the ground. So find where your gaze needs to be, that you feel you have space around your neck and you feel balanced in your posture and you can breathe steadily. Think of the inhale opening your rib cage up and the exhale releasing your hips down. Find in these last couple of breaths, long line between the hands. So if you're sinking into your right hand, push the ground away. Open up that right shoulder joint. Reach up with your left hand. And the next time that you exhale, release your left hand down, come onto your fingertips in both hands and push the ground away with your fingertips to shift your hips back so your left thigh doesn't have to work. As you bend your right knee and draw your right toes up, and look at your toes and square your big toe and your little toe with each other and with the front edge of the mat, and then bring them as high above your heel as you can. Once you have your foot strong, keep it, and then start to open a bit more space into the back of your leg by drawing your right butt cheek back away from your heel until you feel your edge. The place where any more is too much, you're creating more tension than you're releasing, but any less and you're really not engaged with creating space in the back of your right leg. So gauge that by your breath. If you're fairly flexible in the back of your leg, your foot is strong, toes pointing up towards the sky, and your knee is already lengthening, check that your kneecap is not locked, not pushed down, but engage your quadricep muscle up. Draw your kneecap up. If you still feel you want to deepen that stretch, then square your hips, bring your right hip back, left hip forward, and start to lengthen your spine by drawing your heart open and up towards the sky. And these are just little micro movements, so not big dramatic movements. Move into it slowly so you can gauge whether or not you can breathe into what you're doing. If you have a hard time reaching the ground with this, you can use blocks. Use your next exhale to push the ground away with your hands. Bring your right hand inside your right leg and take your right leg back. Release back into extended child, using your hands to press your hips back over your heels. Find that width of your knees that helps release your head and breathe into your hips as though you could. Notice how your right hip and leg feel in comparison to your left. Use your next inhale to lift you up through table and into low lunge on the left. Find your alignment left to right and front to back, so the middle of your feet are aligned with your front hips. And as you release your hips down, you start to ease your way closer to the ground. Your left knee doesn't go forward ahead of your ankle. If it does, just inch your foot forward so you keep the knee safe. Lift your left toes to help support the knee joint as well. Breath by breath, easing the right thigh, right groin open. And if it's too much, if it's too intense, you're not able to keep the breath steady, or you're clenching your jaw, or your shoulders are riding up, then push the ground away with your fingertips. You're in control. Ease some of the weight of the upper body out of the thigh and groin. And feeling in your back foot that your toenails, including your little toenail, are facing the ground, so your hips are squared. Support your back knee if you need. And then imagine your breath going right down into your right thigh, using your exhale to release down, and your inhale to check that you can breathe there, that you can inhabit that sensation. Now setting up for your wings. Bring your left palm or fingertips down where your upper left arm aligns with your lower left leg. Arm and leg really strong together. Left toes and arch lifted. Bring your right hand to your right ribs and feel your breath there. Use that expansion to inhale and open your ribs up away from your left side towards the sky. And as you exhale, release your hips down and continue to move into that with your breath. So you inhale, see what sort of opening there is, what sort of twist there is at the waist, and then as you exhale, release a little deeper. If you want to add your arm in at the fullest place, stretch your right arm up towards the sky, roll your shoulders onto your back. Find where your gaze needs to be, where your head needs to be, so that you feel space around your neck and you feel balanced. And then feel space within your left shoulder joint. So if you're sinking into your left hand, change the relationship to the ground. Push the ground away with your left hand, with the base of your fingers, and rise up through the right hand. Find lots of space between the two hands. If the left knee has rolled into center, press your left knee into your left arm, so you can leverage the right side open from the strength on the left side. Give that one more inhale, and as you exhale, release your right hand back down. Come onto your fingertips, push the ground away, shift your hips back so you can stretch out the back of your left leg. And as you walk your hands and your hips back, draw your left toes up, let your knee bend as you get your foot strong. Lift your toes up, square your big toe and your little toe with each other with the front edge of the mat right up above your heel. Engage your foot. Then breath by breath, very slowly, work more length into the back of the leg. Even if your knee is bent, you're still going to have a stretch. So just work with where you can breathe, where you are. Notice where you feel that. Is it mostly in the calf, or the hamstring, or both? Check that your kneecap isn't locked if you're more flexible, so you're lifting your quadriceps up. If you want to take this a little bit deeper, start to square your hips, drawing your left hip back, your right hip forward just enough that you feel the change and you can still breathe into it. It hasn't affected your foot. If you want to take it deeper still, draw your sternum up, slide your shoulders down. It's your stretch, it's your body. So feel for where's that place where you can breathe steadily. And this next time that you exhale, soften your foot, push the ground away with your hands, bring your left hand inside your left leg as you take your left leg back and release yourself back into child. So find the place where you're comfortable. If you need to take your knees wider, tuck back small, and then find where you're going to rest your hands under your head or back by your feet. And hopefully now you feel a little bit more balance left to right in your legs, your thighs, your hips. If you're still breathing actively, let go of the breath. Let yourself be breathed. Settle into this small posture. Like a sponge, absorbing the juice, the energy of your practice. If there's any quality or awareness, energy that you'd like to take with you off the mat, bring that into your attention, into your mind, and think of it coming in with the in-breath. And this next time that you inhale, uncurl, lift yourself up to kneeling, bringing your arms out to the sides, up overhead, drawing in that quality if you had chosen one. And as you exhale, bring your hands together down along your midline to your heart, acknowledging your practice, yourself, anyone else you're practicing with. Namaste.